Okay, so I'm sure most of you know me just from, I don't know, I feel like I talk to all of you guys, but my name's Alyssa, and if you follow me on Instagram, I talk on my stories like about everything. Like I did not start out that way, but now I get to the point where even just today I posted like 40 slides of just me and my friend talking about how crazy like our past 24 hours moving into our apartment was. Like it's actually crazy. A lot of crazy things have happened, but yeah, so it takes some practice to get to that point. I remember I used to sit in my dorm in college and literally like read the back of like the keto coffee and like memorize it, and then I would try to take a video and I would mess up and I would do it like 20 times. But like now I almost always get people who like text me who I don't even know, who are like, oh, I want to try the skinny brew, and I'm like, oh, how do you know about it? Like I've never talked to them before. Or even my distributor Caitlin, she's amazing, and she contacted me out of nowhere because of my stories, and so I love talking on my stories. I will do that all day. But yeah, that's just a little bit about, I guess, me, Brittany.
Hey, you guys. I'm really excited to be doing this today, and hopefully, we have some good tips for you guys because stories have kind of changed the game for my business. And I'm kind of like Alyssa. I love to go on there and talk. I think those graphics that we have are amazing, but people don't get to know you through the graphics when you're sharing those. But when you go on your story and you're talking, even if it's about the business or the products, they get to know who you are. They get to know your personality a little bit. And so those have been huge for me. And I know Alyssa kind of said she used to practice and everything, and I was the same way. So everyone used to talk about going live, and I was terrified. I was like, I cannot go live. And so I'm like, and Haley's shaking her head because she knows I'm still terrified to go live. I'm a really, really shy person, in case you guys didn't know that about me. So doing stuff like this is like way out of my comfort zone. And I finally, I guess it was last January, I was like, you know what? At least I don't have to go live if I use the hands-free mode. So I pulled up Instagram stories and I learned how to use the hands-free mode. At first, I had no idea how it worked, so it took some practice. But I just started to record these videos, and no joke, the first one that I ever did, recorded it 20 times and deleted it before I was finally okay with one of them. And I wish I could show you guys that first one that I did because I was shaking. I like had just a straight face. There was no expression because I was so nervous to do it. But I stepped outside of my comfort zone and I learned to get comfortable with that. And now it's just like second nature. I'm like, what can I go on there and talk about today? And it has completely changed my business for me because people, like I've said, they've got to know me a little better just through stories. And so that's what I'm hoping this Zoom will kind of encourage you guys to do, is just if you're uncomfortable or if it's like scary to you to get on there and show your face and talk, it gets easier. And you just have to step outside of your comfort zone because we do not grow inside of our comfort zone. So hopefully we can get you some good tips today.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just what you said about like just talking about the products instead of reading the slides, it's so true, because when people can hear your voice, and like I like sometimes I'll do like reviews of the products, like whenever like the sleepy tea came out, I was like, okay, I'm drinking it, like I'll update you tomorrow. And then sorry, and then like I would actually update them, and like people reach out to me because of it. So when people can see like your own review, your own facial expressions, like just how excited that you actually are about the business, then that draws them to you so much more. Like, and it just goes back to like your pillars. So I always tell my new distributors whenever they're signing up that people sign up with people that they know, love, and trust. That's why we post. So like 99 of the distributors that I get tell me that they sign up with me because of how I talk and because of like how enthusiastic I am about the business, because it's obvious because I talk about it 24/7. So I think just within the past 2 weeks, I've signed probably like 10 distributors, and most of them have come from my stories. So sorry, I like can't talk. I have something in my throat.
So it's kind of the same way for me too. Almost all of my distributors lately, it seems like they're coming from my stories, and they'll just swipe up and they're asking, okay, well, how do you do this? Or give me a little more info. And it sparks that conversation. And then we go from there. And while host to post are great, for me, I feel like most of my distributors are coming from my stories. And one thing that I do, and Alyssa kind of touched on this just a little bit, but for one, you have to be confident in what you're talking about. So make sure you go on there, you're super excited, you're so confident. And one thing that I do is I talk about objections. So we all had objections, like we were nervous to do this, we didn't have any experience, we didn't have the $99, you don't know anybody, things like that. Because more than likely, most of the people that are interested in the business that are watching your stories, they have those same objections that you had. So go on your story and talk about that. Call it out with indirectly calling them out, And so I'll go on there and I will be like, I've had so many people this week tell me they don't have the $99 to join, but they want to do this business with me. And then I'm like, you guys, that's exactly why you need this business. If you cannot afford the $99, just imagine if you come up with that money, invest it, you could be making $200-300 within your first couple of months. Like, wouldn't that make a difference? So I talk about things like that. And I really feel like that has helped for me, just talking about those different objections.
Yeah, and I got this from Stormy, but she got it from Alyssa Bowman. And she said that she picks like somebody every day that she's talking to who hasn't signed up yet and literally pretends like she's talking to them on her stories. And I think that that's so smart because honestly, I feel like everybody has the exact same reasons for joining, but it just goes back to even if you just get one person from it, like that one person is everything. So one of the things that I had was really like share your life and be yourself. Like it is so easy to watch other people's stories and try to act like them. But for me, like I really try to show like who I am, like I'm not very like, hey girl, like how are you? Like, I mean, I can be, but I'm just not really like that. So, I mean, show like the things that you like, show the things that you care about, because that's how you're going to bring people into your business who are like you. Because if you're acting like somebody else and then you're attracting a different type of person. So, and honestly, it helps. Nobody wants to feel like they're being sold to all the time. They want to feel like they can go to your page and like people are nosy. They want to know about your life, and that's just how it is. So if they're knowing about your life and then you sprinkle some of the business in there, then it's going to be so much better. And even just like the retention on your stories from talking, like that really does make it so much better. So that's my biggest tip, honestly. Just like if you had a crazy day, then get on and just like talk about it. And if you have to redo it, then redo it. But it will make people like it's so weird at first. I know. Like I remember whenever I first started doing it, because everybody on my Instagram is like every single person I went to high school with, and like just everybody in Saginaw where I'm from. So it is a little bit weird, but I feel like people get so used to it. Like I'll be hanging out with my friends and I'll like hear my voice and I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm just watching your Instagram story. Like it's so weird, but I promise like people like it because I mean, we're all nosy. Like I could sit and watch like all of you guys talk on your story because, that's like we're people. But yeah, seriously, just show your life because people are so interested in that. So that's one of the tips that I have.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that it's important to show them that you're not perfect. So you don't have to have makeup on, you don't have to have your hair done every single time you go on your story. And that was something that I had to learn myself too, because I always felt like if I was going to go on my story, I had to like have my hair done, have my makeup on. And for some of you guys that have maybe been watching me since I really started using my stories, you probably saw that transition where I went from I'm not going to show my face unless I have makeup on and my hair is done. And now I'll go on there like messy bun, no makeup. So I think it's really important though, because people want to see that you're real and you're not this perfect person, because I'm sorry, Courtney Bohr is amazing, but like she just looks perfect. And I'm like, I'm nothing like that. And so I feel like they relate more to you when you're just comfortable being yourself. So that is just another thing that I always try to tell my team is just, you don't have to look perfect. You don't have to sound perfect. I stumble all the time when I'm talking on my stories, but it's okay because it just shows that you're a real person and anyone can do this business. So that's another big tip that I always give.
Yeah, I mean, just I mean, I was the same way. Like, I would only talk whenever I would wear makeup. And because I was in college when I started this business, it was like maybe once every 2 weeks, you know? So I just like, I had to get over it. But it really is so true. Like, I know I already said it, but like, remember, people really do sign up with people that they know, love, and trust. Because if they feel like they trust you as a person, which they can really only get from talking to you, then they're going to be so much more likely to try the products, to invest their money in you. Because I mean, really, when people are signing up for the business, they sign up with you because they trust you. So really, like, building that credibility by posting and being consistent every day, it will change your business, I swear. um, and then the next thing that I have is I always talk about like what the business does for me. So like, whether, I know this is a big one, but going to get gas and just showing it, or I'm like showing your, we can't show our receipts anymore. I've never done that actually. But like, even the other day I went to go pay for like my apartment rent, and then I mentioned how I like stopped by the store and like went shopping, you know, and just like how easy it was because of the business. And that really does draw people, because a lot of people can't do things like that, especially like my friends who are in college, who are my age. Like, that's something that, like, I mean, I dreamed of like just last year. So really sharing like what the business does for you, even the small things, because they always say, and it's so true, but the small things are the things that the people can relate to the most. Like, it's nice, like, I'm sure it's amazing being able to show off like a huge house and like everything that the business does, but the average person needs groceries and gas money and just the little things, you know. And so like, just really what it does for you, that will make people feel like they need to join. And then also just the same type of thing, but showing your little wins, because not only does it give you more confidence, like whenever you can talk about all of your wins, but also, I mean, it does also kind of build your credibility too. So every time you get a customer, every time you get a distributor, even just like when somebody gets their shopping spree on your team, like shout it out, just show the little things, because they all add up. But yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, definitely. And I've kind of gone away from doing that, and I don't know why, because like you said, it does show your credibility and it shows people like the business really does work. And so it even something as simple as I used to just screenshot when you would get that notification from Connect, screenshot that, and it had my screensaver was a picture of Ella and me, and right across it, it just says congratulations on your new customer or whatever. And I would share that to my story with like, thank you so much, so and so, you got 40% off, whatever, something as simple as that. But people see that and they're like, okay, she's really really doing this, she's really making money. So yeah, that's really important. um and then another thing, kind of switching gears away from so much distributor geared, I guess, stories, but I noticed Alyssa does this a lot as well. But going on your stories, and instead of just sharing a graphic of like your coffee, you know, just where we have all these graphics made about the keto coffee, Haley does a lot of this too. I see her shaking her head. She knows what I'm talking about. But instead of just sharing those graphics about the keto coffee and like what's in it, what it does for you, go on your story and make your coffee and talk about it while you're making it. You don't even have to have, like, mine's normally, because I don't have a way to put my phone up and like record me while I'm making it, I'm literally holding it with one hand, making my coffee, and while I'm making it, explaining what the Skinny Brew does, what's in it, you know, things like that. And I one time made a Reese's cup coffee with it was like a blended Reese's cup coffee with my Skinny Brew. And I had so many people messaging me. They wanted the recipe, but then it led into a conversation about the Skinny Brew, because I'm not just using regular coffee. I'm using coffee that burns fat too, and it tastes like Reese's. So things like that. I mean, instead of just posting graphics all the time, just go on there and make your coffee. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy, but that I feel like is another good one that's helped a lot for me.
Yeah, and that's so true, because I remember even just when I was going diamond was when I was doing like a lot of like Facebook lives and talking more about the products, like actually talking about it. And I had so many people reach out to me, and I'm like, you watch my story every day and I post the slides of it. Like, that never interested you. But it really is true, because I don't know what it is. Something about you talking, I think maybe it's because people don't do that as much unless you're like a blogger. So it makes people stop and really listen. So yeah, that's a really good one. And then, so I was also going to talk about how to get more views on your stories. So what I do is, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you leave your Instagram app open and you just let the stories play, like when you set your phone down, then obviously like it's the algorithm, like the more that you give, the more you get. But also what I started to do is I started to go through like all of my stories. So I started the back or like the middle because that's the people that I interact with the least. And I will slide up on every single person's story. Like, hey girl, I like your shirt, where'd you get it? Hey, like, I don't know, your dog's so cute, you're so pretty, like or just like a heart, but I'll always say something. And I've actually been getting a lot of followers from it just because like if they weren't following me, they will, or if they weren't watching my stories, then they'll start to, and that bumps my algorithm in their feed. So then that means that they'll see my stuff more. Like even I started doing that like really consistently about 2 weeks ago, and my story views jumped like 150. So I just thought that was like a little bit crazy. So and it goes with the same thing, like posting more. Honestly, just the more that you're on Instagram, the more people see your stuff. So yeah, that's what I have for how to get more views. And then also with like responding to people's stories and stuff, you get more followers. And then what I do is I still go through and follow new people every single day, and I'll go interact with them like a couple days later so that they're seeing my stories too, because my goal is that's where I feel the most comfortable on my Instagram. So that's where I want people to go whenever they start following me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll probably notice there's not much it works on my actual feed. Occasionally I'll put a post on there. Typically if I'm sharing it works in my feed, it's going to be more business geared because I do everything else in my stories, because most of my customers and distributors have been coming from stories lately. And another good tip is to add polls or like those little question boxes and things like that. Even, it doesn't even have to be on your video that you're recording, your hands-free video. Any of the graphics that we share, it's just a good way, because I feel like people tend to vote more than they do swipe up. And so it opens up that conversation, and you can just send that message that we use. Hey, I saw you voted on my poll. Are you interested in more info or whatever? But that has been a really big thing for me as well. And don't just, make sure when you screenshot these graphics that you actually put your own poll on top of the one that's on there, because I've seen some people that just screenshot it and put up there, because it won't work. You have to make your own. But the polls and the questions, or like I guess it's a quiz is what it's called on there, those are very, very helpful as well.
Yeah, that's true. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was gonna answer Abby's question, but you may know how to answer that better, because I'm not huge with all the ins and outs of the algorithm, but it does seem to boost your story views when you're watching more stories and you're swiping up on them, or even if it's not even just sending an actual message to them, but just like the hearts and everything, that I've noticed really helps as well. I don't know much about the algorithm aside from it works if you're watching more and you're doing more, but
yeah, almost everything that you do on Instagram will boost your algorithm. Like unless you're just scrolling. Like if you just scroll, like maybe if you like it bumps it a little. It's more about like adding everything together. So like whenever you're liking people's posts, and it's not even just about the algorithm specifically, it's the fact that when you comment, they go to your page, because that's just what we do. Like if you get a DM from somebody you don't know, you're going to click on them. So, and then once they click on your page, it does show it more often because they think that that's what they want to see, if that makes sense. It's kind of like whenever you like Google something and then you get an ad for it, it's kind of similar. So yeah, and what you said about like the polls, that kind of stuff boost your algorithm too, because you're messaging people from it. So and then also that is good about like talking on your stories, just because like I remember whenever I was promoting, and I don't know, I've done this a few times since then, but I'm able to message people and be like, hey, like I see that you've watched my stories and blah blah blah, and we can all send that. But the more that you use your stories, the more relevant that message is, and that message helped me a lot. So that's really good. And I asked Kaylin this the other day, but don't be scared to exaggerate a little bit on your stories. I'm not saying lie about anything, but I gave her the example the other day. I was like, I made that application in my bio like, I don't know, a while ago. And every day I would not get any, and I would post on my story every day, sorry guys, I'll catch up on the applications. It's taking so long. But really, like, I was like, anytime that I got a notification, I was like, oh, and then eventually, that's what I was telling her. And then eventually, now I really do get so many that I have to keep up at times. So seriously, like, it's kind of like FOMO, whenever you talk about things and you're like, oh, like, I'm so excited, like, all of this amazing stuff is happening in my business, because sometimes, like, you can't just wait around and like wait for the fire to start. Like, you have to create it, and you have to like be the energy. So just talking about like very highly of the business, and just like amazing about what you're doing and like where you're going and how excited you are, that draws people to you. Because just think about the difference between whenever somebody sounds super monotone, it doesn't get you excited. So don't be afraid to exaggerate a little bit. I'm not saying lie about the products or anything like that, but just as far as like what gets people's attention, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yes, I completely agree with all of that. Create that urgency and that FOMO, like you said, because if people see you're having success and they see that all these other people are filling out your influencer application, they're going to want in on that too. And I kind of do the same thing, but what I'll do is I just don't delete them all. Like, I'll keep them on there for a little while, and eventually there's like 40 something on my influencer application, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, I'm trying so hard to catch up, like, just recording the screen. And so they can see that. And so then I will screenshot my actual profile, like the view of my page, and I'll go put a little arrow to the influencer application, and I'm like, if you're interested, this is the link, go fill it out. And it's amazing when you do that, what happens, because the next thing you know, you got 5 more applications filled out on there. So it really creates that FOMO, and people want to be a part of that success that you're having too, for sure. The other thing, I'll go ahead and I'll touch on this as well. One thing that I'm really, really big on is sharing your why. So a lot of people that have been following my journey with the business, they know all about my why I'm doing this, where I started, and how far I've come. And it really, I feel like, helps people relate to me too, especially if they're single moms on my page. Literally, we're putting gas and groceries on a credit card. Like, people know all of that about my story. I'm not saying you have to go on there and just share all your dirty laundry, but don't be afraid to open up, because you'd be surprised how many people can relate to your journey, and they see you having success and they need that also. And they're going to come to you when they're ready, because they relate to you and you are so vulnerable with your story, and that's what they connected with. So don't be afraid to share your why, and just those little bits of your life and part of your journey there. I think that's so important.
That's true. And like I talked about on the Zoom I did a couple days ago with the newbies, people, I don't think that we realize that as like, I mean, regular people, like, pretend like we're not in an MLM for a second. We watch people jump in and out like so often, like not just our own distributors, but I mean, like I was telling them, like I get like about 3 messages a day that are like, hey girl, like I'm looking for 90-day product testers. And I'm like, I have this message, And so I know how it is. People get messages like that all the time. Like there's definitely so many more distributors that can join, but there's a lot out there, So I forgot where I was going with that. I'm sorry, my mind is totally blanked. What were you talking about?
Sorry, I was reading some of the chat and everything too.
No,
Just
I was
just
like,
sharing your why
yeah,
and how important that is, because people relate to that.
yeah. So, oh, yeah, whatever. Anyway, we watch people jump in and out of MLMs all the time. So when that happens, sometimes you need to stick around a little bit for people to believe you. And it's not because like they don't trust you. It's just because that's what happens a lot. I mean, we see people post like a couple like it works slides on their story for maybe a month and then they stop. But it takes a little bit it's all about like building credibility with people. And whenever people are able to see your journey of like where you came from to where you are now, like it's crazy. Like even just like I said, like last year, like talking in like my tiny dorm room, like it was so ugly. It was so bad. Like I was so not confident. Like to now, like I just moved into my new apartment like 2 days ago, you know, like, and being able to see the journey that really does stick with people. Um, and so I think that that's a really good tip. And like, so if you don't really necessarily have a why yet, talk about what you want, like why you joined, what it's going to do for you, what you've seen it do for other people. And I heard Sherry Lynn, she said that, I think this is in the or not the Rachel Jones, I'm stupid. This is in who's the girl who wrote Girl Wash Your Face? I forgot her name. Rachel Hollis. Rachel Hollis. It's in her little book, but she talks about writing down 10 things that you want over the next 10 years. And I can't think that far. Okay, so I say like 5 years, but 10 things that I want over the next 5 years, and write it down and like talk about that. Like talk about how you want to own a house one day, or that like your dream is to like, I don't know, whatever your dreams are. It looks different for everybody. Talk about it. If you don't have your why yet, then talk about what you want it to do for me or for you. Like, we're not all running from some crazy life. And that's what I really struggled with at the beginning too. Like, I was like, well, I feel like I just don't have this insane why. Like, I haven't even started my life yet, you know. But it's like Cheyenne Knox always says, like, she's like living her life backwards. And that's how mine is too. So I always tried to focus on the things that were coming in the future instead of really where I came from, because I didn't really feel like, I don't know, I really struggled with telling my story at first. So if you need like some inspiration about what to talk about, like write down those things that you want. And honestly, the more that you talk about it, the more excited that you get. You know, it's the same thing as like affirmations and things like that. The more that you talk about it, the more that you're going to want to do it. And that's honestly why it's hard to shout out our promotion sometimes, because we're scared to talk about it. But once you do, then it's like, oh, like there's no going back. Like they already know I'm going for it, you know? And then it can be used as motivation. So anything with just like talking about where you're going. And then once, like Brittany said, once they see that you used to talk about it and then you're there now, then it's like game over, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And sharing those goals, I feel like, is really important too. And that's part of the reason why I started using my stories and like showing my face, is what I say. But I was pushing for Diamond when I first started using my stories, and I'm like, my posts are doing okay, but I need to show people like I'm a real person. Like this is going to change my life if I get this promotion and this bonus. And so I would go on my stories, and I've cried on my stories, you guys. That's how real I get on them. And people, I guess they like to see it. I mean, people are nosy, you know, and they want to follow that. And so I would go on my stories, and if you've been on Zooms in the past, we kind of talk about like breaking down your goal and how many customers like would take to get this much volume and everything. And that's kind of what I would do. And I would go on there, I would talk about my goal, what it was going to do for us, and how many customers I needed to hit that goal. And I would just go on there and update it all the time. And you would be amazed at how many people follow that. So really share your why and share those goals, because they're watching and they want to help you. If they're watching your journey, they get invested, and then they'll come to you. How many more customers do you need? You know, so don't be afraid to share that kind of stuff. I've kind of breezed through all of my stuff. I was gonna say,
but people really do, like they get so invested. Like I was even just telling my roommate the other day, I was like, do you actually watch my stories? And she said, yeah, I watch every single one of them. And I was like, that's so weird to me. Like I read her this message that I got probably like a month ago, and it was just this girl. She was like, hey, like I know you don't know me, but I watch your stories on Facebook and Instagram, and like I just really support what you're doing, and like I hope you get everything you want. And like she didn't join or anything, but like it's just so cool. Like people will watch you. And so the biggest thing that I have to say is just get over yourself. Like if you're scared, I promise, like people will watch your stories and then they'll move on to the next story, okay? And then it'll leave their head until you post again the next day. And I even, like, I'm kind of the opposite. I get more scared to post on my feed on Instagram, just because I feel like Instagram is so like you have to be so perfect, you know? So posting on my feed, I get more in my head about. And I literally told Claire the other day, like I was like, I just told myself, I was like, get over yourself. Like nobody cares, you know? So it's really just know that it's the best thing to do for your business, and just do it. Like the more that you do it, the better you'll get at it. But if you never do it, then you can never learn how to do it. So
Yes, 100%. And if you guys ever want me to, I will send you my very first story so you can see. And then you can go watch my story that I post tomorrow and how the difference is, because it gets so much easier as you go. And then eventually you're like, what can I talk about today on my story? Like, and you just start, talking about random things. But I just always told myself I will not grow inside of my comfort zone. And so I just had to be willing to do something that I was uncomfortable with. And it just got easier and easier and easier. So if you're nervous to go show your face and talk on your story, just remember that you're not going to grow inside of your comfort zone, and your business will flourish the more that you do. So that's my biggest suggestion. Share your why, share your goals, and just don't be afraid to show your face.
Yeah.
Show people you're real.
Yeah. I think that's just about all I have too, but do you guys have like any questions or like anything that you struggle with in particular about like stories or just like Instagram in general?
Anybody? Stormy Morris 2.0 has a question. Gina has a question.
Okay, so I have two questions because I'm still learning Instagram. So is it possible, I guess, just to change your algorithm? What you're saying is that I need to comment on more people's that are not It Works distributors, so then I will see more of their stories, because now I just see like all of y'all's stories is what I always see.
Yeah, so I feel like it's just like your Facebook feed. The more you're interacting on stories, the more people are going to see yours, and you're going to see more of theirs. So if you're only watching like your teammates' stories, that's what you're going to see. But if you're like, I will literally in the mornings when I'm getting ready, or like when I'm getting ready to get Ella for school, I'll open up my Instagram stories, and I'm assuming Facebook is the same. I don't do Facebook stories as much because they just carry over to my Facebook for me from Instagram, but I'll open it up and I'll just let it play through, and it'll just keep going and going and going. And I notice that my views go way up when I do that, the days that I do that. But so it's kind of like your Facebook feed.
And
you can it's like TikTok. I feel like in my mind, you can curate who you're going to see first by who you watch the most. So like my first 10 are always exactly the same if they've put something up. So if you're trying to get away from those always being the ones you see, when you pull it up, scroll past all the It Works people, then start watching after that. And the more you do that, the less those will be on on your first 10 or so. Does that make, I don't know if that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was like, you're kind of frozen, but it moves whoever's you watch to the front every time. So like, just scroll past them. Not that you don't want to give them a view, but if you want to bump other people up in you kind of like tell it who you want to see the most. Everybody's like frozen on mine. It's weird.
Can y'all hear me? I have another question. Okay. My other question is, so Brittany, when you're saying, do you do a video or do you go live, or do you just put a video on your Instagram?
So I'm still terrified to go live. What you're saying, step out of your comfort zone, and I'm still terrified to go live. But there is a hands-free mode on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure it's Facebook too, but I just carry mine over to Facebook. So when you go to add your story, now you probably can't see it, but it's going to be over here, and you'll just, if you go down, there's a down arrow and it says hands free. And so all you have to do is you just push that button right there, and it starts recording, and you can stop it. You can watch it. If you don't like it, you can delete it. It usually does 4 slides at a time. This, like, what are they, 15 seconds each? But you can do that as many times as you want to, delete it as many times as you want to. So that way, if you're like me when I first started and you need to do it 20 times before you're comfortable with it, you can do that. But it's the hands-free mode.
I learned something new tonight. All right, y'all are gonna see me on doing a video tomorrow. I'm so proud. Anybody else have any other questions? I've monopolized the questions because I'm so about learning about IG. Okay, Joanna, you have a question? Ask away.
Yes, I was just wondering, do you guys ever use Snapchat to promote anything or no?
For me, I don't know. I'm kind of half and half. So I use Instagram and Facebook as like my business, but I keep Snapchat and Twitter and like I keep Snapchat and Twitter to myself. Like even though I don't even use them as much anymore. I don't know. I like to like be kind of like this person here and this person here. That's just how I like it. But
Mhm.
you can use anything to promote if you want to. Like to like any platform. It's not limited to anything. So if you feel more comfortable doing it on Snapchat, then yeah, post things on Snapchat too. It works kind of the same thing as like the hands-free mode if you want to do it like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.